turning our body into a statue. So make a fist with the hands, gripping the floor with your toes, and then just take a moment to take that irradiation right through your entire body. And we'll hold at about 30 or 40%. So keeping our body as a statue. Let's start with the neck. Draw your chin down to your chest. Let's take it across onto our left shoulder. Dip your ear down toward your shoulder, side flexing back through extension. Side flexing on the right side, rotating chin onto our right shoulder, rotating chin forward onto your chest. Let's reverse, going to the right, side flex down, nice and slowly back through extension, left side flexion, left side rotation, and forward flexion. Let's do one more lap in each direction. So really concentrate on keeping that circle nice and smooth as we keep the rest of the body completely still, like a statue. So making sure shoulders and torso are moving, just our head and neck traveling through space. Nice, slow, controlled circle. And as we finish that second circle, just bring our head back to neutral position and crossing our arms over our chest. So let's squeeze those hips extra tight. Make sure we're not getting any forward bending here or hip hinging. Let's round and flex that spine as much as we can. Hold that forward flexion. We'll go to our right side this time. So twisting, rotating, side flexing right shoulder toward the floor, back through extension, side flexion left, rotation on the left side, and then forward flexion. Let's reverse that. So rotate to the left, side flex into the left, move back through extension, side flex onto the right, rotate into the right, rotating forward into flexion. Let's go one more lap in each direction. Again, focusing on our hips here. Keep the hips really still. That's going to help the movement just happen through our spine. Even trying to keep your head and neck in the same position and just focus on that spine from the top of your hips right up to the base of the cervical spine. So 2 nice big circles in each direction. When we finish that second circle, let's bring our arms by our side, glue your hands to your legs. So we're going to work through scat cars this time. So we're going forward, up, back, and down. So try and get those arms straight, elbows locked, and the palms of the hands glued to your side. We'll do 3 laps in each direction for our shoulders. As we come down on this one, let's reverse. We'll go back, up, forward, and down. So 3 nice big circles. Good, then moving on to shoulder cars. Let's take our left arm first. Externally rotating as much as you can now. Let's sweep that arm across and in front of our body. Taking it across our face, up by our ear, squeeze the deflection, hit the roadblock, internally rotate to move into extension, staying as high as possible, and then finding more internal rotation as we come down, back of the hand by our side. Extend back into extension. Externally rotate this time, coming through flexion, across the body. Externally rotating all the way down. Let's do one more on that side. So holding on to as much external rotation as we can as we move into flexion. Find the roadblock, pull the ribs down tight, internally rotate through to extension as high as we can. Trying to find more and more internal rotation on that way down. Then reversing that, hold that internal rotation as we go into extension. Externally rotate through flexion, and as we sweep down in front and across the body, we're trying to find more and more external rotation on the way down, keeping the elbow locked, arms straight. All right, let's go right side. So same, external rotation, sweep across and in front of the body. Find flexion in the top. Really squeeze into that flexion and then use the external rotation to move through into extension. Keep looking for internal rotation on the way down. And keep looking for external rotation on the way down as we go in front. So imagine our arm is like a wet towel. We're trying to wring every last drop of water out of it. So external rotation on the way down, internal rotation on the way down and extension. So 2 laps on that right arm. And then we'll get into the elbows. So take our arms by our side. We're going to try and keep the upper arm and shoulder completely still here. So just a rotation and flexion happening from the elbow down. Let's start by externally rotating as much as we can. Then as we flex, trying to bring the pinky fingers onto the outside of the shoulders. Squeeze the biceps as hard as we can. Internally rotate and extend. Right, upper arm, shoulder staying still again. External rotation, pinkies to the outside of our shoulders. Squeeze the biceps hard. Internally rotate. Extend, hold in the bottom in internal rotation. We're going to come up. This time trying to bring our thumbs inside our shoulders. Externally rotate. Extend. One more here. Internal rotation at the bottom. Flex. Squeeze the biceps as hard as you can as you externally rotate. And then extend. All right, guys. 90-degree bend working into our wrists. Let's get those palms open, keeping them nice and flat. Let's go pinkies into the middle. Fingertips to the floor. Thumbs to the outside, and then fingers to the ceiling. Let's do 2 more nice slow laps in that same direction. Just looking down, making sure your forearms don't move. Keep the hands nice and flat and open. We get back to our start position. Let's reverse those circles. 3 laps the other way. Again, forearms staying completely still. Biggest possible circle you can draw with the tips of your middle fingers. Keeping the palms open nice and flat. Good. All right, guys, for our hips, let's come down onto the floor. We'll do that in a quadruped position. So I'll just turn sideways for this one. So just taking your hands below the shoulders and knees below our hips. So one at a time, I'm going to go left side first. Let's draw our knee up into our chest. Now trying to keep the torso completely still. Abduct that leg, take the knee away from the midline. And then we're going to internally rotate. Keep squeezing your heel onto your butt. Going into extension without extending through the lumbar spine. Bring that knee down next to the other one and then reset, or reverse rather, extend, externally rotate. Try to draw your knee up to your shoulder, in up as high onto your chest as you can, then reset these together. Let's do 1 more on that side, left side. External rotation and internal rotation into extension. Reset and reverse. Externally rotate from extension toward the shoulder, knee into your chest, and sit down. All right, guys, same on the right side. So quadruped position. Focus on keeping the rest of the body, especially the pelvis. We want to try not to rotate our pelvis. So pelvis staying still, that means the 2 pointy bones on the front of your hips there pointing straight down toward the floor. Trying to draw the biggest circle we can with our knee. Keep pulling the heel into your butt so we keep that leg looking like a bit of a chicken wing. Focus on lower back staying neutral and not extending as we go into hip extension. When we've done 2 circles with our hips, let's grab a seat on the floor. Feet out in front, working into our knees next. All right, guys, for knees, let's go left side, left arm under your left leg. So we're going to lock that upper leg in place. And then just starting with some rotation to begin with. So just through that lower part of your leg, externally rotate and squeeze into internal rotation. We're going to keep dorsiflexion, so keep pulling your big toe up to your knee. So external rotation, internal rotation. Let's do 1 more. And then this time, as we go into external rotation, squeeze and hold there. Hold as much rotation as we can here. As you do, try and straighten that leg out. And then try to internally rotate as much as you can as we flex the knee and pull back in. Let's do 1 more. External rotation. Extend. Internally rotate as we flex. Then squeeze and hold as much internal rotation as you can as we extend. Externally rotate. So flex. 1 more. Internal rotation at the bottom. Extend. External. Flex. Let's stay on the left side and do that left ankle. So just locking with the right arm, that lower leg in place. So keep your calf completely still. 3 joint circles in each direction with your left big toe. So for these guys, we should be able to get into that tissue just below the knee. Feel all the tops of the calf working really hard here to draw that big circle out. So pointing the toes hard to the bottom, dorsiflexing in the top. 3 in each direction. And then let's move over onto our right leg. Working back into our knees on the right side. So right arm under right leg. Again, we're going to dorsiflex to start. So pulling that big toe onto your knee and then going external rotation, internal rotation, external, internal. So trying to keep that upper leg completely still here as we rotate as well. Let's hold on to our external rotation this time. Squeeze that as hard as you can. Extend, internally rotate as we flex. Good. External rotation. Let's extend, internal rotation, flex. Hold our internal rotation this time. Extend, flex. One more here. Extend, flex. Lock down that lower leg. Giant circles, 3 on each side. Good. 3 giant circles with the point of the big toe. Sorry guys, onto our spine to finish up. Let's come back into the quadruped position. So starting with some cat-cow. So knees under hips, hands under shoulders. I'm just going to do that global movement. So anterior tilt with the hips, extending through your spine, head back, looking up to the ceiling, and then going posterior tilt with the hips, round and flex the spine, tucking your chin onto your chest. It's just some nice big movements there. So pressing up into flexion. We're drawing our belly button in, tucking our pelvis under as much as we can, sternum in, and press your chin onto your chest. Round and flex, really push up tall into that position. Come the other way into extension. Let's stick our butt back, find that anterior tilt. Push the belly button down, push the sternum down, lift the chin, look to the ceiling. All right, guys, then take a pause next time you get into extension. And then starting in our pelvis, let's start to tilt into posterior tilt, and we'll work from the base of the spine to the top, segmentally, creating that nice, slow, controlled wave up the spine, one vertebrae at a time, curling, flexing that spine, and then push up tall. Try and hold on to as much flexion as you can, and just anteriorly tilt that pelvis. Let's start again from the lower spine, moving slowly into extension, through the T-spine, through extension, leaving the head and neck till last. So if you can really differentiate between each of those parts of the spine. All right, guys, let's do a few. Actually, we'll spend about 90 seconds here going in between flexion and extension segmentally. So as we're going into, or from extension to flexion, try and keep as much extension through the upper spine as you can as you do the hips and lumbar spine. And then gradually bring that flexion into the upper spine, then through the head and neck, and the same in reverse. So actively, we're going to try and hold on to as much flexion and extension as we can in that upper part of the spine as we make that change of direction through our pelvis and lumbar spine. You guys work for about another 60 seconds. So try and make each rep a little smoother than the one before, a little bit more controlled than the one before. Guys, work here for another 30 seconds. Make sure we're blocking out those elbows. So arms not moving, arms and legs staying still. All right, guys, finishing on the rep you're on. And then let's take a seat on the floor. So feet out in front. I'm just going to tilt this laptop screen a little. Feet out in front. We're going to be in a bear sit position to start. Good guys. So bear sit, we've got about 90-degree bend in our knees and about 90 degrees at the hips here as well. Let's take our arms inside of those legs and just gently pushing your knees down toward the floor. So we get a nice big stretch to these adductors. And from here, guys, see if with your pelvis, you can try not to sink back. You're going to anteriorly tilt. So lift up tall, push that belly button forward, shoulders up nice and tall. Aim to get a flat back or even a little bit of extension to that spine. Okay, so gentle stretch here. We're pushing down with the elbows. We're going to do some pails and rails in this position. So after we have done some time in this passive stretch, our pails contraction will be as we lock with these arms, we're going to start to squeeze our knees together. So we're going to ramp that up all the way to 100% effort. We're going to hold, and then the end of the hold rails contraction, we're going to try and go the other way. So that'll be 100% effort, rails contraction, pulling the knees away from the arms and down to the floor for a max effort. When we finish that, we need to chase those knees down and block in that new position. We're going to do 3 sets there. The first 2, we've got 10-second holds. The last one is a 30-second hold. So that's going to be quite intense. We'll build up to that one. All right, guys, so let's get into our first one. So make sure we've got those knees blocked firmly with the elbows, and then start to squeeze your knees together. So just a 20% effort. Then slowly ramp that to 40, 60, 80. And now your max safest effort, squeeze your knees together. So max safest effort without tearing anything. 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails contraction. Reverse that. Squeeze that tissue on the outside of the hips. Start pulling your knees away from the arms and down to the floor. 4, 3, 2. Bring the arms down. Brace and relax. So we should immediately find a little bit more range. Definitely on that first rep. Find some more range. Again, just reset that position. Make sure we're up as tall as we can with the chest and shoulders. Let's go to our second contraction. So you're squeezing your knees in towards or in against your arms, 20% effort. 40, 60, so we've got to match that effort with the arms pushing down. 80, now max safest effort, holding for 10. Trying to lose that upper body position, stay nice and tall, anterior tilt in the hips. 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails contraction, pulling off the arms down toward the floor. Should be a little bit harder this time to get the arms, to get the legs off your arms. 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. So relax. See if we can push those knees a little further down into that passive stretch position. So we have a 30-second contraction this time. I'm going to need a stopwatch for this one. So it's 30 seconds for both pails and rails. All right, guys, let's ramp up, squeezing your knees together. 20, 40, 60, 80, max safest effort now. So 30 seconds, really try and keep that pressure at that max intensity for as long as you can. And then we're going to get other way for 30 seconds, max effort. It's halfway. Last 10, remember, keep that chest up, belly button pushed forward, anterior tilt in the hips. 4, 3, 2, 1, 30 seconds, rails effort. Squeeze down, so drive those heels into the floor. Actively pull the knees down. Let's go more anterior tilt, so if you can push your belly button forward at the same time. Lift the sternum, push that forward as well, so we can get a flat back with some extension through the spine as we work the outside of the hips. Stretching against these adductors. Last 10 here. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Guys, you bring those knees in together, give them a gentle squeeze. So for the next one, guys, we're going to work in between bear sit and a seated straddle position. So for some of you may want a yoga block just to sit up a little bit higher on the hips if you're kind of uncomfortable in the straddle. Essentially, iso movement pass. So from here, we're going to try and pick a leg up, set it down in straddle, pick a leg up, set it down in straddle, pick a leg up, pull it back into bear, pick our leg up, pull it back into bear. All right, guys, so ideally here, we don't move that torso. Try and keep that nice and stable so we find that one position. If you need to, guys, here, arms as kickstands to lean back a bit and block. it would be better for this exercise, if you do need to lean back a bit and block, that's fine, we can work here. That block position where we don't move the torso is going to be better than if we're changing our position. So if I'm leaning back every time I've got to lift or straighten the leg, try and block here. If we can't block without the arms, please use the arms. We're going to get more productive work out of our hips. All right, guys, so we're going to work 90 seconds here for the hips. So we'll start in our bear position. So it's just going to be left, right, and then we'll go right, left, and alternate as we go. All right, guys, so from your bear position, up nice and tall. Let's block with that torso. Kickstands if we need. 90 seconds starting now. Let's go left leg, lift. Keep the knee as high as possible as you extend. Set down, lift the right. Knee high as you extend, set down. Left, straighten, flex, right, lift, flex, set down. Let's lead to the right this time. So lift, extend, set down, lift, extend, sit down. And roll very casually, putting the arms behind the head, showing off a little bit there. It's getting hot in here. I'm going to take the jacket off. But guys, keep those torsos nice and still. If I find if you're using kickstands and you find you are nice and stable, you start to lift the hands a little bit off the floor. Try a few reps without them. Remember, try and keep your knees as high as possible. So as we lift up from bear sit, hold that knee nice and high. Try and get the extension without dropping the knee, and then sit down. Same in reverse. Get that straight leg up as high as possible, and then knee even higher as we flex to bring back into bear. We've got 20 seconds left here, guys. Last 10. I'm going to take this into a stretch to lengthen all this stuff we're going to be working in a short position. 3, 2, and 1. All right, guys, shake those out. We're going to come into a sort of pigeon position. So for this one, if anyone's knees are a bit uncomfortable, if you need a little boost on the outside of your leg, either with a yoga block or sometimes with those stretching mats, to come to this position. Can you see that okay on the screen? So we're going to have our back leg straight back behind us. Try and square our hips up, just bending that front knee. So actually when you bend that knee quite a lot, you're going to have the heel of your front leg tucked in under your pelvis and get nice and tall in this position. All right, guys, so if you need to, we've got a block or something under the hip, but otherwise try and get comfortable here. All right, and then from there, guys, let's think anterior tilt again. So we're going to try and tilt that pelvis back, stick our butt out, lift the chest up nice and tall, and then bring yourself forward and down to get nice and flat here, guys, right? So arms out in front. What do you do without sort of rounding and flexing the spine, yeah? So we're going to get up nice and tall, get flat, find a nice big stretch here. If maybe some like Roz aren't getting enough stretch here, then you can open that front leg a bit more. Otherwise, just get nice and flat. You should be feeling a stretch along the sort of outside line of that tissue and the outside of the hip. So guys, from here, we're going to work pails and rails again. So our pails contraction will be to drive our front leg as hard into the floor as we can. We're going to ramp that up from 20 to 100%. Drive that, but at the same time, I want you to pull that chest and torso down, but make sure we don't pull into flexion here. So stay nice and tall, even looking for extension and anterior tilt through the hips. Right, so we're going to compress that as much as possible. And then our rails contraction, guys, we're going to try and keep the chest down and try and lift that knee off the floor. So it's essentially trying to squeeze this stuff together. All right, guys, so we won't come out of that position for pails and rails. It's going to be all work at end range or into our passive range. And we're going to do the same as we did for our bear sit. 10, 10 for our sets 1 and 2, and 30 seconds on set 3. All right, guys, let's get into that bottom position, right down to that passive stretch. Brace with the arms wherever you need to. And let's start to ramp up that first contraction. So when you drive your front leg into the floor, let's start with that first, 20% effort. Then match that effort by pulling your torso down onto that front leg. Get 20% there. Let's go together for 40, 60, 80. Now max safest effort here for 10 seconds. So we're driving front leg into the floor at the same time. Chest down, squeezing onto that thigh. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now squeeze everything together. Squeeze your front leg up into your torso. Squeeze your torso down onto your front leg. 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. All right, let's readjust those hips if we need to. Try and lengthen that spine even more into that bottom position. Let's go for number 2. So 20% just with the front leg to start. Match that with the torso. Ramp together for 40%. 60, 80. Max safest effort now. So front leg into the floor. Chest pulling down the front leg. 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails squeeze together. So chest pulling down, top leg pulling up, so we can get a hold of all that short tissue on the inside of the hip here. 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. Okay, guys, so resettle into that bottom position. Longer through the spine, more anterior tilt through the hips if you can. And let's ramp 20%. So this is for a 30-second hold. Together for 40, 60, 80. Your max safest effort now, 30 seconds in this bottom position. So try and keep that intensity right up tall or right up high at 100%. Keep driving the front leg into the floor. Match that intensity by pulling your torso down into the front leg. Just over halfway. Last 10 seconds here, then it's immediate rails contraction, guys. Squeeze that short tissue as much as you can. 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails contraction. So pull that chest on the front leg even harder and try and lift your front knee off the floor if you can. Squeeze hard, contract. While we're doing this, guys, try and focus on that tissue on the inside here, the short tissue. See if you can feel it contracting. Or feel what you're using to contract there. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, roll yourself out there. So we'll switch legs. So normally, guys, the Pails contractions are a lot easier to feel the tissue we're working on because it's already at length or it's being stretched when we're contracting it. Sometimes that short tissue and the rails can be a little bit harder. So see if when we're doing those rails contractions, especially that 30-second contraction, can we actually feel what's happening in that hip? It's going to be sort of like in the front and on the inside. So adductors, hip flexor area right at the top there to find what tissue it is that we need to use to lift and squeeze there. All right, guys, so setting up again with the opposite leg in front. So again, if you need blocks or boosters on the outside of the hip, just to be able to allow you to square the hips up. So trying to square, so you've got the 2 pointy bones of the pelvis pointing forwards. Then anterior tilt, stick the butt out, chest up, forward fold, get nice and flat. So we'll stretch that out for a little bit before we start our contractions. So Pails and rails, again, 10, 10, and then 30 for the last one, where we're going to concentrate extra hard on trying to find, especially that rails contraction, find what tissue that we're trying to, or that is being used to make that contraction. All right, guys, let's go Pails contraction. So just with your front leg, without the torso, 20% effort driving into the floor. Match that with the torso pulling down into the front leg. Together, ramp to 40%, 60, 80. Now your max safest effort, driving front leg into the floor, chest pulling down on top. 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails. Chest still coming down, but we're trying to take our front knee off the floor this time. Squeeze that leg and the torso together as hard as you can. 4, 3, 2, 1, relax. So resettle in that bottom position. So we need to square those hips up again. Anterior tilt with the spine, get a little bit longer, a little bit taller through the torso. Let's go into our second set, 20%. Just the leg, match that with your torso. 40%, 60, 80, max safest effort now. 4, 3, 2, 1, rails, 100% effort straight away. Really squeeze front leg off the floor. 4, 3, 2, 1, relax. Just resettle in that bottom passive position, relax everything. Longer and taller now if you can through the spine. So last one, 30 seconds. Let's go front leg only, 20%. Match with your torso. Together ramp to 40, 60, 80. Max safest effort. So 30 seconds this time. Keep that intensity as high as possible. So the longer time in the hold, we can sort of focus our attention on what is contracting or where we feel the contraction most in our body, especially in our rails contraction. Into our last 10. So we're going to immediately switch into that rails contraction after this. 4, 3, 2, 1. Squeeze your chest onto your front leg. Try and lift, hover that front leg off the floor. Find that short tissue. Search for it with your mind. See what's contracting. Halfway there, keep that intensity nice and high. Into our last 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and coming out there, guys. All right, shake those hips out a little bit. And then we're going to do a little bit more work with our hips before we move on to some, some upper body. Good. So grab a quick drink if you need to, and then sitting in a straddle position on the floor. So we're going to try and transfer between this straddle position going into a 90-90 on each side. So to do that, if I'm going left first, I'm going to want to lift my left leg up, 90-degree bend, try and put the ankle down, then the knee as we transition here and just bend in this position. Then we're going to pick that back leg up, externally rotate, straddle, straddle, bend, and bend into that 90-90. Okay, so from 90, it's going to be our back leg that moves first. So we lift and extend, then the front leg or the lead leg, and then from straddle, it's lead leg first into 90, trail leg second into 90. All right, guys, so we're going to spend about 2 minutes there for our hips. So between straddle, let's start in a straddle. Start with our left leg first. We just get the sequence right all together. So going from straddle to 90, we start with our lead leg. Going from 90 back into straddle, we're going to start with the trail leg. All right, guys, so left leg is our lead leg. Let's start the clock now. So lift it up nice and tall. Flex to 90 degrees. Rotate, try and lift the trail leg. 90 degrees. Then we're going to start trail leg. So it's going to come off the floor, straighten, rotate back into straddle. Lifting our trail leg now. Into straddle, right leg, lift. Externally rotate as we flex the knee. Trail leg internally rotates. Set down in 90, then trail leg first, externally rotate, find straddle, and we're back. All right, guys, that was one lap, took about 30 seconds. So we're going to go through for 2 minutes, so we might only get about 4 laps here, from left side back to left side. Again, torso is our focus. Stay nice and still through the torso. we need kickstands out the back, put kickstands out the back. Better to use our kickstands, keep the upper body as still as possible. We are obviously rotating our upper body with this one, pointing in different directions, so it's not going to stay in exactly one place. It's more from that straddle transition point when we're lifting our legs coming into 90. And it's a good opportunity here too, guys, as we go side to side, to just get some feedback from your body on which side, if a side is more favorable to external rotation or internal rotation. So for me, 90-90 with the left leg in front is much more comfortable than when I go to the right leg in front. So it's just giving me a bit of indication I've got more external rotation through that left and internal rotation on the right. And when I try and do that in the opposite, hips don't like it as much. Good guys, so let's go through one more. So whichever side you go into 90-90 on from now, just work your way back to straddle and we'll break there. That'll be about 2 minutes or just over. So everyone finishing in straddle. All right, guys. Stand up, shake the hips out if you like, grab a quick drink. All right, if you have tennis balls for this one, you can use them. If not, just make your fist will be fine. So we're gonna do some shoulder stuff. So I just kind of quarter turn away from the camera for this one. So for this one, internal rotation, we're gonna try and go up as far up the spine as we can. So if I start here, then you just walk those hands up or use your other hand to lift and pick. Get as high as you can with those wrists or the backs of the hands up the spine. So we're gonna find this kind of chicken position. So from here, guys, it's going to be a pails and rails contraction. So we've got some internal rotation here. For our pails, guys, we're going to keep our torso completely still. We're going to drive the hands into our spine or into our back there. So pressing hard, ramping 20, 40, 60, 80. Max safest effort, holding for 10. Then we're going to try and lift those hands away from our spine. Right? So just getting the back of the hands off. We're going to try and keep those hands from dropping. So as I lift, I don't want to drop the hands down here. I'm going to squeeze up nice and high and then set down. So each time we'll reset, walk those hands up as high as we can. And we're going to do that same pails, rails, contraction sequence, 10, 10, and then 30 on that last effort. All right, guys, so internally rotate so the backs of the hands are on your spine. Let's bring those hands up as far as we can. So take a minute, walk them up. You can use one hand to lift the other, get as high as we possibly can, or as far up the spine as you can. And then just hold there. All right, guys, then 20% effort, you're pressing the backs of the hands into your spine. Ramp to 40, 60, 80, max safest effort there now. Squeeze, 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 driving the backs of the hands into your spine. Now, when we do rails contraction, don't let those hands go toward the floor. 3, 2, 1, rails. So try and internally rotate and lift off for your rails contraction. So we're hovering away from our back, trying to keep those hands up as high as possible. 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Good, right? So those hands dropped a little bit in the rails contraction. Let's walk them back up the spine for the second set. So for the rails contraction, we're trying to get more internal rotation through the shoulder, so rotating that way, and we're trying to retract the shoulder blades at the same time. All right, guys, set 2, 10 seconds, 20% effort, driving into your back, 40%, 60, 80, max safest effort, 4, 3, 2, 1, lift off, rails contraction. Find more internal rotation as you squeeze the shoulder blades together, squeeze the elbows together, try to draw the backs of the hands away from your back. 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Good, guys. So we've got 30 seconds on this one. Let's shuffle those hands back as high as you can go, as far up the spine as you can go. All right, so as we're doing that contraction, this time in Pails, we're driving into our back, trying to drive those elbows apart as well, so almost trying to spread the shoulder blades, and then we reverse that coming the other way. All right, guys, 20% effort. Drive the back of the hand into your spine, 40%, 60, 80, max safest effort. So 30 seconds here now, backs of the hands, driving hard into the back, and let's spread those shoulder blades. Try and take your elbows, bring them in front of the body, or aim to pull them in front of the body. Just coming up to halfway there. So when we go into our rails contraction, guys, remember, try and keep those hands or your wrists up as high as possible. Don't let them drop to the floor. And look for more internal rotation from the shoulder. 4, 3, 2, 1. Max safest effort now, guys. 30 seconds. Internally rotate the shoulder. Back of the hand hovering away from your body. Draw the elbows together, shoulder blades together. Let's try and lift our wrists a little bit higher, further up towards your head. Over halfway. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Good, guys. Any cramping on that one? A little bit? All right, so next one for the shoulders. If you have some blocks, they'll be handy, or some books, or anything we can just elevate a little bit on. We're going to be in a prone position, face down on the floor. So I'm just trying to look at the camera. I think I'm far enough back here. So guys, prone position, laying face down, and try to bring those yoga blocks or whatever books you have right underneath your shoulders. So your wrist is almost, or your hand, palm of your hand right underneath the shoulder. All right, guys, so we're going to work in a prone position there. Our body position with our hands here is going to be protracted. So spread the shoulder blades as much as you can. So we're going to do pails and rails in this position as well. So our pails, protracted, so like internally rotated, and you're driving the palm of the hand as far or as hard as you can into the block. But only push with protraction. So we're not going to push with the triceps or allow that elbow to open up at all. So it's just protraction, pressing as hard as we can into the block. Rails contraction, we're going to try and go the other way. So we're immediately going to retract those shoulders, try and get the palm of the hand off of the yoga block. All right, so it's the same ramp up position, ramp up here, squeezing as hard as we can, and then rails contraction, we're going to try and hover and get those hands off the block. All right, guys, so it's 10, 10, and 30 again. So start that Pails position to start. Shoulders protracted. Now for this one as well, let's bring our hips into it. I'd like you to go into a posterior tilt. Just try and tuck the pelvis under and draw your belly button away from the floor. Just so when we do the rails contraction, we work more into the shoulders and we don't let that lumbar or that lower back go into extension. All right, so by keeping that PPT in the hips, we stop any compensation there and we make the shoulders work a little bit harder. All right, guys, crush the yoga blocks with your protraction. 20% effort, 40, 60, 80, max safest effort. So we're not allowing the elbow flexion to change. Keep those biceps squeezed nice and tight. 3, 2, 1, lift off. Shoulder blades come back in together. Elbows come back in together. We get some space underneath the palm of the hand in the block. 3, 2, 1, relax. Good, guys. Remember, as we do the contractions, let's contract that PPT as well through the hips. Make that as big a part of it, and that'll keep our lumbar spine really nice and tight and allow any extension to creep in. All right, guys, again, 20%. Crush those blocks. 40%. 60, we're in a protracted position. 80, max safest effort now. 100% for 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, rails contraction, lift off, palms off the blocks. Get as much clearance as you can, shoulder blades back in together, lower back's nice and tight, squeezing the PPT. 3, 2, 1, relax. Good, guys. All right, this is the 30-second hold. All right, let's ramp up that first contraction, 20% into our blocks. 40, 60, 80, max safest effort. So I like to think of this as like an impossible push-up. Like you're pushing so hard, but because we're keeping those biceps squeezed nice and tight, we don't allow the arms to straighten. It's the push-up that you can never do. Good, guys. PPT nice and tight, squeezing hard. So you should feel those shoulder blades spreading apart, tissue on the upper part of our back lengthening. 3, 2, 1, 30-second contraction here, guys. Rails contraction, draw those elbows up to the ceiling and back together, palms of the hands off the floor, shoulder blades squeeze back in together. Halfway, keep squeezing, let those arms, the palms stay nice and tight underneath the shoulders. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice, guys. All right, can roll those shoulders off a little bit. From there, guys, for our shoulders, we're going to move into the prone capsule stretch, which is nice and relaxing, but we're going to do some contractions there. So prone capsule, that's where we take one arm across the body. We're going to roll that torso over the top and reach out in front there with our forehead on the floor. All right, so just before you get down there and can't see the screen anymore, we're going to have one arm across the body. So we're adducting here with our shoulders. So we're going to do pails and rails again. So our pails contraction, we'll be driving that arm into the floor, but at the same time, take the opposite shoulder and pull it down to the floor. All right, so both the shoulder and the back of this arm are going to drive into the floor. When we do our rails, this shoulder keeps pulling into the floor and this arm squeezes into our chest. So we might find all this stuff in the center of the chest tightens up, maybe even a little bit crampy feeling. All right, guys, this is going to be a bit of a trust one because it's a very nice, relaxing stretch to just lie into for about a minute and a half. So I won't know from here whether you're actually working or not. All right, guys, let's find that prone capsule. With prone capsule stretch, guys, try not to let that shoulder of the arm that's underneath the body get up under your neck or under your chin. We want to try and pull that shoulder down to press it. The arm should be coming across our chest. It shouldn't be interfering with your neck or your breathing at all here. All right, guys, so we'll get comfortable there. And in our Pails contraction, we'll just do that two-part start. So we'll start to push the arm that's across and under your body into the floor first, and then we'll match that with the opposing shoulder by trying to draw that down to the floor, and then we'll ramp them together for the rest. All right, guys, let's start there. 20% effort, just that straight arm across the body driving into the floor. Now match that with the opposite shoulder, pull it down to the floor. Together, ramp to 40, 60, 80, max safest effort. So we should be feeling a really nice big stretch here in behind the shoulder blade of the arm underneath your body, squeezing hard. 2, 1, rails contraction. So straight arm, try and lift the back of the hand off the floor. At the same time, keep pulling the opposite shoulder down toward the floor. Squeeze hard, get into the chest right in the center there. 3, 2, 1, relax. All right, guys, resetting for set 2, 10 seconds. Let's go 20% just with the arm underneath the body. Match that with the opposing shoulder. 40, ramp to 60, 80, max safest effort. 4, 3, 2, 1, rails contraction. So 10 seconds, pulling that top shoulder down. The arm under your body now is trying to lift that whole straight arm. Try and get the elbow and the wrist and the back of the hand off the floor. 2, 1, relax. All right, guys, it's 30 seconds on the last one. Let's start with our Pails contraction. Bottom arm driving into the floor, 20%. Shoulder follows at 20. Together, 40, 60, 80. Max safest effort. 4. Oh, no, sorry. We've got 20 seconds here. 20 more seconds here. We're about to count down. Good, guys. Let's stay in. We've got 30 seconds. So drive. See if we can feel that elbow, the whole forearm, the wrist, the back of the hand, crushing into the floor. Opposite shoulder, you're trying to touch the floor. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails contraction. Guys, so roll that top shoulder down. And now trying to take that straight arm off the floor. Back of the hand off the floor, wrist, forearm, elbow. Try to keep that arm straight as well, guys. Don't allow that elbow flexion to curl in. That's going to be bicep flexion. So by keeping the arm straight, we're really working hard into the chest, creating that adduction with the chest, or sorry, with the shoulder. 3, 2, and 1. Right, it goes. Roll out. Let's take the other arm underneath. All right, so just find your way into a passive stretch there. Prone capsule. Remember, we're going to try and draw the arm that's under our body. Bring it down across the chest. That's up around your neck. So we're depressing our shoulder as we do this one. All right, guys, first contraction, just the arm, 20%. Match it with the opposite shoulder, pulling down to the floor. Together, ramp to 40, 60, 80. Max safest effort. So 10 seconds on this first one, working up to 30 on the last one. 3, 2, 1. Rails contraction. Really squeeze that arm. It's not going to come off the floor, but let's imagine it is coming off the floor. Elbow, forearm, back of the hand, wrist. 3, 2, 1. Relax. So we can find our way a little bit deeper into that stretch. All right, guys, Pails contraction. 20%, just the arm. Match with the shoulder. Together, 40, 60, 80, max safest effort. 10 seconds here. 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails contractions. Squeezing as hard as you can, guys. You should feel that chest to that side of your chest into the pec. Really working hard, especially in toward the sternum. 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. So last one is 30 seconds. All right, guys. Pails contraction. Arm drives into the floor. And roll that top shoulder down to match. Let's go 40% together. 60, 80, max safest effort now. We've got 30 seconds here. So it should be a really intense prone capsule stretch. We're halfway. Good, guys. Getting ready to move into that rails contraction in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Max effort, 30 seconds. Pull your top shoulder down. So again, with these longer contractions or these longer contraction times in rails, we can really focus on what tissue on that short side that we're using and how are we activating that. Over halfway now. Squeeze. Let's get that arm locked. So elbows working hard here to stay straight. We're trying to lift the forearm, wrist, back of the hand off the floor. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Alrighty, guys. We're all done. So lots of pails and rails on that one today.